going on, everybody? This is Steven, Josh, and Nate from the Boo Bros. We just kind of want to do a quick intro. We just got the site up last week. It's something we've been talking about for a long time. I know Josh and I have. Just to kind of get more into the horror and paranormal theme stuff. We have been lifelong fans of horror movies, horror video games, books, basically all kinds of media. And I can personally say, thanks to Phasmophobia, I've become more interested in real life ghost hunting and going to haunted houses and certain investigations like that in real life just to kind of see what's what there. Um, so I wanted to kind of break down what our goals were with this channel or with really this community in general. Number one, like I said, to communicate with folks that are passionate about the same things that we are. Talk about movies. I know I annoy everybody that knows me with how much I talk about horror movies, and I will annoy all of you as well.
No.
It's like my,
Yeah.
my greatest passion in life is to talk about horror movies. But again, to expand on that is to, talk about maybe the media that not everyone's looking at, like books, video games, tabletop games, and like I said, real life ghost hunting. So a couple things on our calendar. I know next few weeks we have the ghost tour in Colonial Williamsburg. This will be Josh and my first one together. It'll be my first one ever, where we actually go on a ghost tour in Colonial Williamsburg. It looks really fun. It's called the Extreme Ghosts of Williamsburg Candlelight Walking Tour. That's going to be a good time. We're both really excited about that one. And then hopefully, this season always seems to slip away from us, but we can get into the next one that Josh and I have actually been talking about for even longer than that, which is the Cabin on 360, which we're from Virginia, obviously in our name. And 360 is a long road, but there's kind of a well-known cabin on that road that has long history, and it seems to be kind of a local hotspot where a lot of folks like to go there and do all kinds of stuff. So we're trying to get there as well. Anybody want to say anything before I keep yapping?
Yeah, I can talk about the cabin on 360. So it's two buildings and then it's about 7.2 acres of battlefield. The videos I've seen are absolutely crazy. I'm talking like people being touched, people getting activity almost instantaneously, even during the day, which is like unreal when it comes to paranormal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so there was a big battle there, so that's the main reason why there's a hot spot. There was also a murder, well, a rape and a murder in the building right next to it, and those are all combined. So that adds to it for sure. And I mean, and if that's our first actual like paranormal investigation, I think that it is going to be we'll have something that's never happened to us. I can
Oh,
definitely feel
easily,
that.
yeah. That's kind of why we decided to do like the guided one, because the one in Colonial Williamsburg is actually they have a bunch of different options, and if we like this, we'll probably go back because it looks like even during Christmas they have like a holiday themed one, which looks pretty fun. Um, but Cabin on 360, like, you basically rent the area for like 4 hours at a time, and they're just like, it's yours, have fun, and there's no guidance at all. And I know like that makes me sound like a little. Well, I don't want to curse yet, but it makes me sound like a little child when I'm like, I don't want to do that yet. But I do want to have like someone legitimate. Like there's a legit paranormal investigator that's going to be with us in Williamsburg, and that makes me feel a little better. So, anyways, we're excited for all of that. Um, and kind of a quick little recommends here to drop to you guys. We did one of our first blog posts, which I feel like I've been cranking those out left and right. But
You
Josh
definitely
did get
have.
a Josh got a, I don't want to call it review because it's not like we're treating ourselves like some kind of professional you know journalist or anything. But Josh did put up his thoughts on the left right game by Creepcast. So I guess the long way of saying I recommend Creepcast if you haven't watched it. Um, I've always loved cryptid internet horror, creepypasta stuff, and Wendigoon and Papa Meat came together and made Creepcast. I've recommended this before in other media, and I recommend it again. Josh watched the left right game this past week. I think it's like it's two parts or one part.
So it's two parts. They're 5 hours.
It's a
About five
long one.
hours each,
Yeah, it's a long
but
one.
it doesn't feel like it's that
Yeah,
long.
it
But I mean,
flies.
it's crazy for sure.
It's a great story. It's also like a very fun intro story because they get into some darker stories that I also recommend, but I don't recommend them for everybody. Um, the one he just finished is called Pen Pal, and then there's another one called Baraska. And those are much harder reads that are not, they're just not for folks that don't want to get into some really sensitive topics. I'll leave it
Right.
at that. I don't want to spoil
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Josh did put up a write up for the Left Right game on our website. He did a really good job. This is the first write up I've ever seen him do. I'm involved in other social media stuff, I'll say projects on the side, and he did really well. So I had a really good time reading it. It was fun to see his side of it since he's kind of a fresh set of eyes on these things that I've listened to dozens of times. So I would recommend that. It's on our website. I'll probably put a link in the notes under this video as well. And then just not to take up too much more of your time, I did want to do a quick outro in terms of what's coming up. Um, our little community here, our little project. This is kind of Josh and my passion project. We started this. We've been talking about this ever since I met him. We work together, so we talk about it literally every day. Um, but what we want to do in terms of this Boo Bros project is we have this website that this video is going to be on. It's probably going to lead to a YouTube at some point. We just haven't made it yet. Um, but also a Twitch. Josh is a streamer. He streams video games normally as well, but I'm gonna force him to also help me stream stuff for this project. And
Oh darn, twist my arm.
yeah, the streaming for this stuff is going to be more along the lines of like a behind the curtain back end view of kind of the prep and the research that we're doing because we are new to this. We want to learn, and but we also want to have that process documented for fun. It's a fun thing, and people will probably come through and see it and give us some really awesome feedback, and more so some experience and some info that we wouldn't have otherwise. So we're kind of coming at this from a few different angles. But the video on demand YouTube stuff will be more like this. We plan on doing what this will be called a bump in the night podcast, which is anything and everything that we want it to be. Um, it might also gear towards some reviews, some horror movie reviews, anything horror related, but also not. We could span off into pop culture and stuff. Just kind of depends on what we're talking about.
Right.
The Twitch streams will be more along the lines of kind of behind the scenes and prep. And then this website will be, mostly blog based. It'll have some articles, some cool stuff, and we're going to keep the schedule on this site as updated as we can. So we have a bunch of things going on the site. And to kind of sign off here, unless anybody had anything else to say.
No, you're hitting it right on the head, man.
Cool. So just kind of some fun stuff we wanted to throw out there at the end. I like to do this at the end of videos that I help produce here. Produce, what a nerd. I make.
I mean, you're a nerd. It's fine.
So I did want to throw out some fun questions to Josh, and I think Nathan's around. I don't know if he'll speak up, but we kind of coerced him at the last minute to jump into this intro. But
True.
Josh, I was going to ask you your favorite cryptid.
So we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast. I'm kind of torn between two. So the megalodon, mainly because I'm a shark fanatic. Favorite animal. I've got a shark tattoo on my arm. Like sharks are a huge thing. The megalodon, if you don't know, is just this ginormous shark that's like weighs about 15 elephants. It's bigger, 5-10 times bigger than any great white. And they just found what they think was a frozen one in Antarctica, so that's pretty cool. And then my other one I think would be the abominable snowman, because he's kind of interesting. 'Cause he's like a kind of a Bigfoot, kind of, but like he's not. He kind of just like hangs around, but he doesn't like stalk people like you would see the Bigfoot do. So he just kind of is there, and and it's around, if you're a big hiker, he's around the Alps, he's around all these like high, very high places to go. So I think those are kind of my two. I honestly didn't even know what cryptids were before Steve and I talked about it, so I've got to research a little bit more. But I think if I had to give one out right now, I'd say probably the megalodon, just because I couldn't imagine being like deep water, diving, and you just see this ginormous shark come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I'll ask myself the question, and it's always the same answer. It's Mothman. I just think he's so dope. I got family from West Virginia, so reading about Point Pleasant and how that town kind of invented this urban legend to revitalize their tourist market and single-handedly save their own town by making an urban legend of the Mothman. So the story is it's a fun story. Is it true? Who knows? But it's a cool, real story, anyways. Even if it's not real, that this town invented this thing to save themselves. It's such a cool, such a fun story to read about. And I will give. Let me pick one of my other ones here because I went crazy with some of these. Let's do a horror movie that's special to you and why, if you can think of the answer.
So I think the horror movie that I feel like kind of got me into the genre, I think, was 13 Ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
So 13 Ghosts, if you haven't seen it, is basically the premise is there's these 13 ghosts that are all different variations. They look all different. They're basically captured, taken to this house, and the only way you can see them is by glasses. They're behind glass doors that are held, that are locked by I guess you would call it like a pattern, probably something like that. But that was kind of like my first, I think I saw it when I was like probably 5 or 6, and it was like one of the most
Way too
terrifying
young.
things
Way too young.
because it's not even like it's gory. It's just the fact that like, everybody's afraid that stuff is gonna be around corners, right? I mean, like that's the main thing with horror. So if you have like you can't see these things, and the only way you can see them is they give you glasses. So you put glasses on, and you have the jackal, which is this person who has a cage around their head, just screaming at you. So I think that's kind of, if I had to pick like my kind of the one that got me into this genre, I would probably say 13 Ghosts. And of course, they're also coming up with a short story or the short films, or I guess you call it like
Miniseries or something.
yeah, which I'm very excited for. So I think that one is probably, if I can think of one that made an impact on me, would probably be that one. What about you? What if you could pick the one the most memorable? What would you pick?
My initial answer is always the same. I love the old black and white Universal monster movies, but to not be so basic, I would like to choose something like the Blair Witch Project, the original one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Just because it was like the first of its kind to really nail the POV, like first person horror genre. I mean, I know like Paranormal Activity came out, but that was like way later. And it kind of opened the door for a lot of these people online to make their own films, like not giant studios.
Right.
And it just
right.
kind of it just like that's what started that whole era of POV horror stuff, and it made it like the floor, the budget floor of those movies got way lower when people could just do it on their cell phone.
Right.
So I like to think that one. I mean, is it my favorite or is it like substantial? Probably not, but like I do like that it what it offered and the things that it did. But anyway, we won't keep yapping. Just wanted to throw an intro video together, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
See you guys. Bye.